In preference to the substance of my address, it would be, in Easter week, it would be rather odd if I didn't make some reference to the Rising of 1916. And it is my habit, and those of you who have been at speeches that I've done before would be used to it now, it's my habit to usually quote Páirtí Pierce. The reason I quote Páirtí Pierce is obvious. He is clearly the one of us person of the Rising. He's clearly the most of our way of thinking. It's very easy to quote Páirtí Pierce for anything that the National Party espouses. He is, although he would not have used the word himself, he is classically a man of the right. Indeed, he did himself say that he was nothing so newfangled as a socialist or a syndicalist, but old-fashioned enough to be both a Catholic and a nationalist. So clearly, in Pierce, we have our man of the right. And for socialist Republicans, that's a bit of an embarrassment. It's awkward, because it's very difficult to quote Páirtí Pierce without landing yourself into some kind of anti-socialist comment, or some kind of anti-left-wing comment. Socialist Republicans just put the picture on the wall and ignore what he actually said. Straightforward socialists don't hold back. For Páirtí Pierce, he is the enemy incarnate. He is everything they detest about Ireland. He is the proto-fascist. He is the forerunner. They agree with us, if you like. Páirtí Pierce was the National Party before there was a National Party. But there's another interesting character in the 1916 Rising. And you wouldn't think I would normally make reference to him, because he totally is supposed to belong to the other side. He's their guy, in the way that Pierce is our guy. He's supposed to be. James Connolly. James Connolly, a man whose character has been attacked, I would say, by association with the type of characters who quote him today. James Connolly belongs to them. Does he really? You know, when I read some of the writings of Connolly, you have to be honest about it. He was a Marxist by declaration. He was a socialist by declaration. And some of the things that he wrote make you cringe and make you step back and go, well, I don't know about that. But then again, I wrote a book myself 18 years ago that the media likes to quote on a regular basis. And sometimes I read that just to remind myself of what I said 18 years ago. And you know, sometimes I cringe. And sometimes I think, oh my God, how did I write that? We look at the Dublin lockout of 1913. There are parallels, maybe not as extreme. There are parallels in our own time. We can say, for example, that the Dublin lockout of 1913 was manipulated by communist elements. And therefore we can stand back from that and say, oh, we want no part in identifying with the workers who were involved. We shouldn't do that. James Connolly didn't do that. We shouldn't do that either. The disgust at the manipulators should not throw us into the arms of the likes of William Martin Murphy any more than our disgust at the type of people who formed the leadership of the water charges movement should inform us to be opposed to the people who took a part in the marches. And more importantly, our opposition to the leadership of the Right to Water campaign should certainly not throw us into the less than seductive embrace of Denis O'Brien. So Connolly needs a re-evaluation, I think. James Connolly was born in Edinburgh in Scotland. That makes him, I suppose, paper Scottish. He was, in any case, a subject of His Majesty, the King, and the British Empire. I judge a man, and I think this is a reasonable thing to do. In the United States, actually, until about 100 years ago, it was regarded as unimpeachable evidence for a court of law, a statement that a man made on his deathbed. Because surely no one is going to lie minutes before their death. So James Connolly wrote many things of which we would not agree. Many things perhaps he would himself would have regretted having written. People he would have preferred not to have been involved with. But to the Field General Court Martial on May the 9th, 1916, he made a statement. And in that short statement, which I'll not read out to you now, but I will direct you to it. Read it. It's a magnificent statement. It mentions Ireland 5 times. I would suggest to you in your just before you're about to be shot statement, you're going to talk about the most important things, are you not? James Connolly wanted to talk about Ireland. He talked about it 5 times. He talked about the Irish 7 times. He talked about freedom once, but preceded it with the word Irish freedom. And he talked about national rights. He did not talk about socialism. He never mentioned Marxism once. Not a word about class war or even the working class at all. And he wouldn't have had the faintest notion of what you meant if you said to him, have you checked your privilege before you made the statement? Most poignantly, I think, and with great pathos, at the last meeting that he had with his wife, again, one where he would not be inclined to make stuff up, it would be his final statement to the world. With great pathos and poignancy, he said, will they forget that I am an Irishman? The paper Scottish guy, remember. Will they forget that I was an Irishman? We have not forgotten. Anyone who thinks that James Connolly was Scottish needs a lesson in history and a lesson too in the very concept of nationality. But more importantly, he was Irish by the blood of his ancestors and Irish by the sacrifice he made for Ireland, the blood that he shed for it, and that's the only kind of Irish there is. Anyone who thinks that James Connolly was one of them, there's it all. He was one of us.